This is Lon Winters with Graphic Elephants.
This is Jimmy Lamp.
This is Matt Vassallo with the RhinestoneWorld.com.
And you're listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
And you are listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by...
My name is Terry Combs, RG, regular guy.
And Aaron Montgomery.
We're just regular guys having fun and trying to make a living in this really cool and exciting industry.
I think we all want to succeed 100% of the time.
Seek to understand before I try and make myself understood.
Bring a ton of great information.
Coming to you live from somewhere dark, dirty, and dank.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. It is Friday night, February 24th, 2023. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And my name's Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at oursuccessgroup.com. As you can see, Terry and I are sitting in the same room, so that means we are live in the mix here. We're in Kansas City, Missouri. Terry just flew in. I'm sure his arms are really tired. Blah, blah, blah. That's not the dad joke, by the way. But
not worthy of dad joke.
Yeah. We've got one for you. So been a great show. Like I said, Terry just got here. I had an opportunity to be here all day today, and because of the fact that we're here to show Terry, we wanted to talk about kind of adjacent to here in DAX Kansas City, but just kind of in general, trade shows, new approaches, what's happening in the world, what we're seeing. You know, you've been in a lot of trade shows already this year. We had Printing United last year. So just kind of really talking about trade shows in general, the new approaches, how things are going.
How people are approaching the post-COVID trade shows. You know, there aren't quite as many trade shows now. And some vendors are not doing all the shows. So we're going to, excuse me. I was telling Aaron that I went to see all 6 of my grandkids last weekend in Austin. 4 of them came down from Dallas, and all of them sniffling, sneezing, climbing on Grandpa for 2 days. And now here I am.
There you go. So by tomorrow, I should sound like this. So.
Yes. Stop drinking out of my beer.
Speaking of that, cheers.
It's an evening show. We always have cocktails.
We have to have a drink.
Shout out to Joseph at Magic Touch for actually buying these cocktails. Yes. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, this show brought to you by Joseph Eric from Magic Touch, and make sure you see him for all your white toner, DTF, everything. The guy's a good guy.
If you're here at the show, go by and say, hey, thanks for buying those drinks for the 2 regular guys.
Yeah, they were actually tolerable that night. All right. Well, let's see. It's going to be a little hard. So the other thing that we have to warn you guys about is this is just Terry and I, no Eric tonight. So we have no support. So if this goes off the rails, it's all our fault. We're also dealing with a tiny little laptop in front of us, so we can hardly read the comments. So we'll do our best. We do have some notes up here. We're gonna make this a good show because that's what we do. We always have a good time.
Exactly right.
So let's see who we got checking in here with Terry. We've got Mr. Jerry. Good evening. Todd. Good evening. And he also says, "I see no beer." Again, cheers.
This is Kansas City. It's not heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard in heaven there is no beer.
What?
That's why we drink it here.
Oh, okay. All right. Chuck, good evening. I hope everything is going well at the show. Yeah, it's been a great show. Well, I'll certainly give you guys a little recap on that. Edward, let's see here. Good evening. I did not make it to DAX. I am debating if I'll try to come tomorrow. What's the rest of that say? Means using the last. Clue. Yeah. Okay. All right. He'll decide tomorrow. Edward. I hope we see you tomorrow, but if not, totally understand. We will catch up beyond that.
You know, if you don't have a booth and you just kind of rock starred in to do a couple of seminars, I got here, met Aaron down in the bar, and then I got my notification on my phone to check in for my flight home tomorrow. So it's a perfect scenario.
Quick in and out.
And, you know, I lived in Kansas City for many years and loved it here. And sometimes we talk about, you know, I wouldn't mind living in Kansas City again. And then I landed and it's sleeting. And I'm like, oh, yeah. That's why I live in Phoenix.
Yeah. I went out to pick up the stuff out of my car for the equipment here for the show. And yeah, my car was just a big sheet of ice. All right. Letty, good evening. And cheers to you as well. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. All right. So yeah, why don't I give a quick recap of what I've seen of DAX so far? I know you haven't seen that yet, and we'll start there. Then we get into dad joke coming. So hang tight. I will be brief. So here's what I've heard and seen so far. The DAX show, very well attended, attendee wise, very well attended. It was wall to wall people this morning for the first 3-ish hours.
Perfect.
So that was really good. Lines of people, everybody's here. Still need the vendors to get back. Right.
Yes.
And I get it. Right. We've heard all the excuses. We know all the reasons why not. I was actually having a really great conversation with Mr. Charlie Tablib.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because somebody came up to him and says, yeah, just look for the guy with the bright shirt. And he's like, oh, I guess this is a bright shirt. I'm like, yeah, Charlie, it's a bright shirt. But
he doesn't know anymore.
Yeah. But anyhow, Charlie was just saying, right. Like, and I tend to agree with this. It's not that you're not here, right? Yeah. You're not here because you don't have equipment to sell, or you're still getting stuff in, blah, 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 all of the excuses. But how long will that hold true? Because what's happening is all these attendees are here. And if they don't see their vendor here that they're used to working with, guess who they're going to talk to?
Yeah.
The vendor that is here, right? So it's still a little small. We'd love to see some people getting back as far as that. There's 2 aisles. It is a little bit bigger than last year, but not too much bigger. So that part is still coming.
I know that Printing United was, probably double the previous year. I was just out in Long Beach at the Impressions Expo, probably double the attendees. Here's the scenario for vendors, and I get it. Vendors are saying, for 3 years during COVID or 2 years during COVID, our sales didn't really fall. A lot of vendors. Now, some vendors were devastated. A lot of vendors, though, said I didn't have the expense of a trade show. I didn't pay $5,000 to move my equipment from the dock to my booth.
Uh-huh.
I didn't book 10 hotel rooms or 5 hotel rooms. I didn't fly people across the country. How long can I hold out and still make money? And I get it. That's the balance they're going with, is like, can I do fewer shows and not have that expense? Because during COVID, and COVID, it's a weird thing to say, COVID was kind of a blessing for some people because their sales didn't fall. Some companies' sales went up, and their expense was doing webinars, doing live events like this.
Yeah.
And I understand how it's hard to suddenly go, okay, I guess we're going to go back to that $500,000 budget to do trade shows again. There was a vendor at Printing United, and I probably shouldn't say who. They spent $1 million to be at Printing United with their booth space, their hotel rooms, all the things that they did. And you've got to find a way to justify that. So but Aaron and I are both proponents of trade shows. We and we get it, the thing, but you know what, people are coming up with ways to do things differently, and that's kind of what we want to talk about tonight.
We're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight. But one thing, and I guess I will name names because I can, right? What am I going to get fired? So when I was talking with Charlie, he made a really good point. A couple of years last year at Impressions, there weren't a lot of the normal screen print companies there, right? The M&Rs, some of those regulars weren't there at Impressions. And who was there? Rock.
Yeah.
And they cleaned up. And who was everybody talking about this year at Impressions? Rock, right? You walk into the front door here at DAX, GSG, right up front, big old booth. Who's everybody talking about? GSG. Right. And so I get it. I get the expense, but at what point does that go? Yeah, the expense is worth it, because I think that's the other hard part. Is somebody that was responsible for those expenses for a long time for a larger company. It was a balancing act of how much money do I spend versus what's my return on investment. But I always had to remind myself, take a step back from that. Yes, I can go sales, leads, stuff like that of this particular show, but 3 years down the road, 2 years down the road, what, who did I not meet that are now in love with the vendor that they did get to meet there? Right.
A year ago at Impressions Expo, which wasn't as big, but I remember saying, how many people here are attending their first trade show? and like 85% of the people raised their hand, which means that all those vendors who aren't doing shows now, nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
You know, our buddy Scott Fresner, and that's where Aaron and I met, working for Scott Fresner, and he was the high guru, the sultan of screen printing,
Carney extraordinaire.
Yeah, but just a few years out of the industry, and there's so many new people in the industry. And you mentioned Scott Fresner. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if you said Scott Fresner, that people would say, you know that guy?
Yeah.
Are you friends with him?
Yeah.
I mean, he was like godlike. Yeah. And just a few years out of the industry, and there's so many new people who are like, I don't know who you're talking about.
No idea.
And that's the same for vendors. Is that you've got to have some level of recognition in the industry, and it's hard to be the online vendor. People want to touch, they want to feel, and we've talked about this 1,000 times.
So anyhow, that's our plea for the vendors. Get back out here, show up at these shows, and there's a huge opportunity. I will once again call out all of my sublimation friends. There is zero sublimation people here. Now, there's a couple people selling Epson F570s, but no blanks, no traditional distributors of sublimation products. Huge opportunity.
Yeah, and that's an industry also where crafters become professionals, because it's easy to get into sublimation, and that's something that Eric talks about all the time.
Yeah,
is that transition from crafter to professional, and sublimation is a big part of that.
Yeah. Speaking of people that are taking advantage of it, this is Mr. Rick. And Rick, I'm going to butcher your last name from here. I know it when I see it on your badge, but Rick from 613 Originals, I believe it is. He is killing it over there. Every time I've walked by his booth, he is like wall to wall people showing stuff off, making waves. So congrats to him. His booth looks fantastic, by the way. So,
and it's a great product. And I think everybody out, I'm sure he's here at the show because not everybody knows who he is, but wow, that's a well-recognized name in the industry, and look where he is, right here at the DAX Show.
Right here at the DAX Show, killing it. So good job, Rick. All right, let's see here. What do we got here? What is the best trade show for those of us not into apparel but hard substrates?
I would say Printing United.
Yeah,
that'd be my
Printing United would be definitely one that I put on my wish list.
Graphics Pro Expo is going to be awards, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So and Edward's in the Missouri area here, so you could get to their indie show, Edward, this June. Yes. I think that would be a good one. They will definitely be those types of people there. And then I guess beyond that, looking at like an APA show, an awards and personalization expo, or something along. Yeah, that would probably be the next best one, I would say.
Yeah, let me give you a heads up about the indie show. They have a rap competition. Aaron and I did a lot of preparation. It was not what we thought it was. Yeah. It's like car rap. Really disappointed.
I had my I had my Easy E chain. We were ready to go. I don't think it's actually happening at Indy this year. They're doing Start Here Academy at Indy this year. So their raps show will be somewhere else. Eric can go do that somewhere else. E-Rich. Since he's not here, we can say it. Right?
Exactly. He's probably landing right now in Albuquerque.
And somebody's like, hey, they're talking about you. All right. Letty says, I lived in KC for 18 years. Awesome.
Go Chiefs.
How many years do you live here again?
I lived here for 11 years. And I've been in Phoenix for 20 years.
All right. I don't even want to think about what Rock spent on Long Beach. Yeah. But
yeah,
here's the other side of that though, Todd. I think you're right. But if they're spending that amount of money, just think how much money they're making.
And I talk to a lot of vendors, and I do screen printing classes here and there, and just a couple of years ago, when I would say, hey, so who's the competition right now? And a couple of years ago, it became Rock, and never mentioned before. It was, it was always M&R, it was always Workhorse, it was a little bit of Anatol.
Yeah.
But now Rock is the first name you hear. Yeah. So good on them.
Yep, definitely. All right. I'm lucky that I live in Dallas area, so trade shows come to us. I miss many of the long time vendors. I might not think twice about traveling to because of it. There you go. Yeah, that's a good point, Sharon. It is lucky when you're in a place like Dallas where they're gonna come to you.
Yeah.
But if you're not, I think it's worth it. It's an investment worth your time.
Yeah. You know, you haven't done the dad joke, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Excuse me. Blame
Am
my
I
grandchildren for this.
putting it off? Yeah. Rick says worth it. There you go. Let's see. Andy says hello from Wisconsin Graphics. Looking to attend DAX, Minnesota.
Hey, Andy.
Andy, we will see you there. Okay. I know we got more comments.
Student from Terry Combs'
There you
Complete
go.
Screen Printing Business Course.
Oh, I know this person too. She's pretty cool. Hello from sunny Arizona. Yeah, it's not so sunny here. Miss Kim Johnson. Sorry.
It's cold here.
Drop it like it's Mazda. Okay. I think that's what that says. Again, we're having a hard time reading some of this. RapsCon is GPX Long Beach this year. Thank you. Rick.
Okay.
Rick is handling producing for us this fine evening. All right. Some vendors seem to think that we should all come to where they hold in-house trainings. If you live close, it might make sense, but having time at trade shows seems better. I hope they come back. Yeah. And
I think it will. I think everybody will
I
end
agree.
up coming back.
I agree.
Yeah.
And let's be honest here, guys. A little bit of it is on us, right? Your dollars, right? So if you're just out there hunting for the best price, then they might stay away. But you've got to find some value in this. So, hey, are you guys coming to XYZ show? No? Okay, well, I'm going to go to the other vendor that's there. When you guys come back, I'll start buying from you again, right? So we've got to hold our vendors accountable a little bit too. So, all right, just calling people out a little bit. You got to do that, right? All right, are we ready for the dad joke though? I think
yeah, and it's usually in the outline, and Aaron's kept it from me.
I know.
So I don't know what it is.
All right.
So.
Well, I went to the dad base, so that's. I think I've told that joke before though. It wasn't funny though.
That wasn't it, right?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
All right. Where'd it go? Darn it. There's too many good ones here. There it is. All right. Are you ready?
Ready. Let's hear it.
What do you call a bee that lives in America?
I don't know. What do you call a bee that lives in America?
A USB.
That's pretty good.
All right. Please bring on the reasons why we should not do dad jokes. All right. What's David saying here? Hello from downstairs. All right. Oh, good. Hey.
Oh, yeah. I saw David downstairs.
David, if you're still down there in about 15 minutes, we might need another beer. So,
yeah. or maybe an appetizer.
Yeah. Some chicken wings, right? We like those. All right. But seriously, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in here tonight. I know we're having some fun, but we do want to also bring you guys some information. Terry has put together some points here for us to touch on. I appreciate that very much, sir. So where do we start here?
Well,
tell us a little bit about what we're going to talk about again. I know we covered it, but then, get us into this.
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit about new approaches to trade shows, because even the vendors that are back, and lots are back, I think that they're looking at ways to attract attention. Of course, new approaches. There's natural progression. That things have always evolved at trade shows, and I remember when I first started going to trade shows, like booths would have like soap opera celebrities in their booth to get people to come by the booth, but.
I think it's some other things, but we won't talk about it.
But, things we learned during COVID about how to communicate with customers through social media, things like that. Getting more from fewer shows. And I'm not talking about there are fewer shows. Take, for instance,
Sure.
Impressions Expo. Impressions Expo has their three major shows, but they would always try to sprinkle in two more shows,
kind of regional shows,
like Baton Rouge and places like that. And they're not doing that right now. And we had the folks from Impressions Expo on the show a couple of weeks ago, and said, so 2023, you're going to add back any shows? And they're like, well, we're going to wait and see.
Yeah.
But they, they're going to focus on doing fewer shows. And that's something that vendors have been saying for years. Don't do 8 shows with, like in Graphics Pro Expo. Don't do 8. Do 5 and
do them really well.
Do them really well. Exactly right. So I think that vendors are looking at ways to do that. But what I'm talking about with fewer shows is a lot of vendors are saying, oh, okay, there are right now 15 trade shows out there in our industry. We're going to do 5. We're going to do this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. How can we do that better?
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't think it's an unreasonable thing. I mean, heck, if it's up to me, I'm going to be at every trade show, but it is expensive. And so how can we do it better with fewer? As we said, we still need customers still need, especially new people in the industry. And this is an industry, it's fairly inexpensive to get into, no matter, and unless E-Rich is trying to tell you to buy a big giant embroidery machine. It's hope you're listening on the plane, E-Rich. He's like, oh my God, I can't communicate with them. I can just listen.
Yeah. He's gonna get in and start muting our microphone.
But it's with new people in the industry, and I couldn't wait to go to my first trade show when I first got in the industry, and it was wow, it was overwhelming to go and actually see all the different equipment and all the different garments and all the different supplies and things like that you could use. So it's something that all of us need. I just wonder, and before COVID, there was all this conversation saying, can't we consolidate things? But this trade show goes, oh, really? You're moving out of that territory? I'm going to jump into that territory. Or we have areas where, Long Beach, there's 2 trade shows there, right? I get it. I mean, it's a great marketplace, but would we be better served if there was, one of those Long Beach shows was in the Southeast? There's only one show in the Southeast.
Yeah.
There's
outside of Atlantic City, there's not a whole lot in the Northeast.
Correct.
There's nothing in the Northwest. Typically, there's
correct.
Graphics Pros tried Portland a few times.
Yeah, and that Portland show, and I was there both times, and they were great shows. Cleveland was one of the best trade shows that I ever worked, and it lasted 2 years, I think, and then boom, it was gone. So,
yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's talk about some of these new approaches here, and I know you hit some of the points, but let's dive into that natural progression a little bit more here first. Let's see what we got in the comments though before we get too far away. Yep, Todd is thinking right along the same lines I was. Rich is going to log on from the plane and turn off the mic. Yep. Shocked
Can
that
you do that?
He can, unfortunately. Now, let's see here. Rick says, Impressions Expo, Atlantic City, floor size increased dramatically after the show in Long Beach. I think we're coming back.
That's exactly correct. And I've been watching that, and all of a sudden, like 2 days ago, there's another aisle. And so, well, I'll tell you this, Equipment Zone right there in New Jersey, and, northern New Jersey, and Atlantic City is in southern New Jersey, but Equipment Zone was thinking that, we didn't do very well last year at Atlantic City. And then just like you said, Aaron, all these people were coming on the live chat going, hey, are you guys going to be there? Are you going to have this equipment there? Are you going to be there? Well, guess what? Now there's an Equipment Zone booth in Atlantic City.
Interesting.
So,
I like that.
I'm not going to be there, but
but I mean, that's a really back to what I was hoping that was the case. And now that I've found out that actually works, I'm really going to be loud about that. Call your vendors, tell them that. And because that's part of it, right? We talked about that. You've got to touch and feel, but there's also outside of touching and feeling the equipment, the hand of the decorating technique, all that stuff. There's also something like to go, hey, great to meet you, Terry Combs, right?
Yeah.
That touch and feel, that's the other part of it, right?
I've talked to you on the phone a dozen times. It's so great to meet you in person.
Yeah. And it makes it, oh yeah, you're Terry Combs. It makes sense now, right? And now I know why I love talking to this guy, because he's got this energy about him, right? And so I think there's a lot to be said there. One of the things that happened a lot in our seminars that I'm always really trying to promote, the 2 seminars I did today, I said, hey, I get to be the guy up here with the slides and the clicker, but at the end of the day, what's most valuable for you guys is the conversations that you're having, right? Like somebody would have a question, I'd pop in with my take, but then I encourage other people, what do you guys think about this? Right. And
that's what we missed during COVID, where we were trying to do these kind of things online. You missed that interaction, somebody in the back saying, but I have a customer that asked for this, and what do you think we should do about that? And before I can answer, somebody goes, I have the same situation. Here's what I did.
Yeah.
And you don't have that for the most part in just online type trade shows.
Because
and you know, DAX did it better than anybody, by the way.
Yeah.
Everybody tried to do an online trade show. Scott and Margie figured it out. I mean, it was like 10-minute pops, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but even with that though, Terry, the thing that I think even if you did a really good job of kind of encouraging that communication between each other, you know, you do a Zoom room or something like that, where it's just not the same, right? It's like I turn my head, I look that person in the eye, I can understand where they're coming from. Yeah, they do really understand where I'm coming from, right? They did really have that situation. Yeah. The keyboard warriors, you know, I can type in the chat and tell you how great things are.
Right.
It's
and you don't have me saying if your phone rings and saying, okay, hold on just a second. Go ahead. Take that call.
There is that part. All right. Let's see here. What else we got here? Todd says peer pressure. Andy says highly recommend Equipment Zone.
Thanks, Andy.
And Mr. Trick counts, by the way. Our reason to go to trade shows: 1, education; 2, network; 3, vendor and equipment. Yeah, there you go, Todd. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, all right. What other in that? Scroll back up there real quick. I want to hit a couple more of those points. I just want to remember where we're at, so I'll get totally off base here. All right. So, okay, we're still talking about natural approaches, and we'd love to hear from you guys as to what you've seen the evolution since 2019 to today, right? But what we learned from COVID, right, and communicating with the customers. Terry, what else are you seeing there? Like, what have you guys? Because you guys were really good at doing. Yeah. When I say you guys, I'm talking about Equipment Zone and what Terry's done with them. You guys have been really good about continuing those conversations even when you're not face to face, because you're already doing online stuff.
Well, exactly right. We were positioned perfectly when COVID happened because we were already doing webinars and excuse me, educational educational webinars. See, if I'm in my home, I just hit the mute button. But educational webinars we were doing maybe once or twice a month. It was such an easy transition for us to do the exact same thing once or twice a week. And so that's what buoyed Equipment Zone, is the fact that myself, Jay, Jeff Morgenthaler, Amy, you know, all the folks at Equipment Zone, we were jumping in and we weren't doing trade show pitches, but we were doing, hey, you know what? COVID's here. Let's talk about decorating masks. And we do an episode on how to decorate masks and then how to promote those. And Jay Bassell would do something about decorate a mask with a company logo and send it to that company and say, you know, I can provide you with these products and that sort of thing. But, you know, something else that Aaron, you and I did that I don't think we realized how important it was to people is we were doing those monthly cocktail parties. Mm-hmm. And I remember Lon Winters from Graphic Elephants coming up to me after COVID saying, man, I tell you what, we were worried. We were scared about our business. And I just loved those monthly cocktail parties where everybody there was just talking about, you know, this is what I'm going to do with my business, or here's where I am. Here's how the government, was it PP?
Yeah, PPP loans.
Yeah, yep. Loans work. There was a whole conversation, one of those, about how to apply for that. And he said, you know, it really helped me get through COVID with my business. And it was just us saying, you know, hey, we miss all you guys, and let's have a cocktail party online and chit chat. And so I think a lot of things came out of COVID that we didn't realize how important it was to folks out there.
Yeah. So. And I think the other part that to me that stood out that we're starting to see more and more here is, you know, one of the things I think you and I love so much about trade shows is that we're all about education.
Right.
And the trade shows have been about education. I mean, since I started in this industry, it felt like education was key to a lot of what they were doing.
Right.
But what I've noticed is there was this break, right? To me, at least in what I saw. Education was what the trade shows were all about, what some of the people in the media space were all about. The exhibitors were there to sell.
Right.
Right. They paid their money. They were there to sell. the conversation was, how many units did you sell?
Right.
And I think what COVID taught us is that if you're focused on education as a company, you're going to be able to not worry so much about how many units did you sell, because you're creating those relationships through education. And I think that's one of the kind of new approaches that I'm seeing a lot more people spending more time. I mean, it used to be, right, like how many people could you put a credit card in your hand and shuffle through the line?
Back in the old US screen days, right?
Yeah. But nowadays I'm seeing more and more people. I mean, I think about the people that I know at the shows that are the regular carnies with us, right? Yeah, kind of. But people like Joseph that bought us a drink, right? It's Joseph is so good at what he does, not because he's going to sell you a piece of equipment. It's because he's going to teach you how to use that piece of equipment, and you've got no other choice than to use him because he's your safety net.
Well, and that he just a conversation with Joseph, that he wants you to be successful.
Yeah.
And he wants to see you at the next show and the next show and the next show.
Yeah.
And talk about that success. I mean, and honestly, that's most of the people who are out there on the vendor side of the aisle. They want you to be successful.
Yeah.
And the people you see at trade shows year after year after year, that's who those people are.
Yeah. And I think before COVID, there was probably a little bit more of a mix of those people and the sales people. Again, not a bad thing. They were selling a product, but it was more transactional.
Well, and I think that the people that were there just for the purpose of making the sale, I don't think they had anything to get them through COVID.
Yeah.
I think that if all I can talk to you about is how much this product is and do you have a credit card, I don't think that those people survived COVID.
Yeah. Good point. All right. So those are kind of what we're seeing as new approaches. What are you guys seeing that's different now than it was in 2019, 2018, any that have been around? What do you like about the shows? If you've been back to a show, what do you like about them? Right. So those of you that are tuned in here, we'd love to hear your take on all this, and go from there. But one of the other points that you had on the outline here that I thought we should cover here just a little bit, and yeah, we're doing good on time. Shocking. We might get done on time tonight. Well, we need to get dinner. So
no dinner yet.
So what is the tipping point, right? And we talk about that. You brought that up in what's going to take to get the vendors back here in the booth, live and in person.
It's like that Olympic bike racing where you're watching it and they're on that
the high bank, the velodrome.
Yeah. And they're all going along. They're just cruising along.
Yeah, they're kind of
just
looking over their shoulders.
Just waiting, and then somebody breaks, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody, it's just high speed, and that's what this is. They're vendors are going to sit and wait. Some vendors sit and wait, or just put a toe in the water. They're going to do 3 or 4 shows, and they're going to wait till things break, and then all of a sudden they're going to say, our sales aren't what they used to be. What's wrong with you guys? And well, that's because XYZ company is doing 10 trade shows and we're doing 3, and they're gobbling up all the new business. They're gobbling up the person that bought from me 2 years ago bought from XYZ company this year because they were at the trade show and they made them an offer. And, loyalty only goes so far. And, I was talking to one of our sales reps in New Jersey, Amy, and she said that she was just getting ready to close a deal, and somebody came in, jumped in, swooped in, and said, "I'll give you $1,000 credit towards inks and supplies if you buy from me instead." And what did her loyal customer say? Well, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if you can't match that. And it's kind of the same scenario.
Yeah.
That customer is loyal up to here, but if it's going to save me $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000, then I have to take another look at it. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think over the next, I'm going to say 18 months, that vendors are going to say, you know what? now I'm seeing a dip in sales. I was waiting until I saw that dip in sales, and now I've got to jump back in full force.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I love that. I think you're exactly right. I love the velodrome, the cyclist. That's exactly what it is too.
Exactly.
And honestly, this year in Long Beach, all the screen print people were back, right? But
yes,
was it too late, right? Did Rock grab that much market share that they're going to be struggling for a little bit?
I think it's going to be a catch-up situation for the other people.
Yeah. And you think about it, right? A lot of times the guy in the break, he's got the advantage.
Yeah.
It is more like that sprint. This is not the long distance, the Tour de France kind of deal where the breaks go out there and they're just there to kind of like, and then everybody catches
everybody
on.
Else is back there laughing. Right. No, this is a shorter
This
race.
is a different deal where, yeah, for sure. All right. Todd here. Oh, let's get this first one. He says, DTF is not a fad. I totally agree with that. I think
Correct.
It's there to stay, which is, I love it, right? Because you're now talking about DTF.
I'm doing a seminar on DTF, Todd.
Yeah. And I remember when I first started hearing about it, I was asking you about it, and you were like, what?
Yeah. Actually, what I literally said was, I don't know. What is it? That was like 2 years ago.
That was also the same thing you said to me when I said, let's do a podcast.
I did do that 10 years ago.
Yeah. And
what's a podcast?
What's a podcast? No, you said, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. And then you said, what's a podcast? And I said, I don't really know, but let's figure it out.
That is pretty much the way we've gone through our lives.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Let's do that. What is that?
What is that? Yeah.
But I'm in.
Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, I'm in too, but I don't really know, but I just suggested I heard about it. Yeah, that's not good. All right, Todd, what do you else you got here? I think the ethos. Oh, I think that's probably a typo. I think people putting on shows need to reevaluate their pricing. I've heard some have raised prices considerably to make up for the past few years. I think that's definitely an issue there. I've definitely heard about the price increases and the challenges that comes for vendors to when they're starting to make these decisions. Because, you got to think about these shows, their businesses too. And they took some hits, right? And
it's the trade show venues also that are, it's always been this way. You ship your product across country for $3,000 and the dock is right there. I can see it from my booth. $5,000 to bring it from over there and sit it over here.
Yeah.
$5,000 or more.
Yeah.
And those prices have gone up. Why? Because there are fewer trade shows and they need to make their money. So it's kind of a vicious cycle, but the expensive trade shows, I think that most attendees don't have any idea the tens of thousands of dollars that every one of those vendors spend to be in that booth.
Yeah.
And so, and how do you justify it? You can't justify it, by the way, on what you sell that day or those 3 days. You can't even justify it over 30 days. I know that at Equipment Zone, we track sales from every trade show for the entire year.
Yeah.
And like Long Beach show, we have a spreadsheet, and every time somebody makes a sale that started in Long Beach, they drop it in. I had a sale that started in Long Beach today, and that was back in January.
Yeah.
And so then you go back and look at it because it's so easy to say, well, gosh, I don't know. I don't think that show was very good. But then you have to go back and look at the numbers and say, oh, wow, we did $250,000. I'm just grabbing a number out of the air in sales at that show. So it was worth it. And then there's not the dollars and cents, but somebody 2 years from now saying, oh yeah, I know that company. Yeah. I'm now ready to buy, Todd, that DTF printer, or I'm now ready to buy that embroidery machine, or I'm now ready to buy that sublimation printer or whatever, or I'm now ready to start printing sweatshirts. And, oh, hey, Sanmar, I remember talking to those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that definitely kind of that overall number. And it is really hard. Like I said, as somebody that was responsible for that side of it, dealing with the budget and what, trying to figure out return on investment.
Right.
There are lots of things involved on both sides of the aisle, because I know it's an investment for the attendees to come to, and they can't necessarily put a price tag on that, but the relationships that they build, the education they gain, the knowledge that they're going to be able to advance on to their customers.
I remember and I spent probably more time as a decorator going to shows than as an exhibitor.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to be out of the shop for 2 days. Can I afford to go to the show? Can I afford to be out of my shop for 2 days?
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
That's their investment as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I know talking to people, you know, at the show today that were attendees, they're like, you know, it's kind of a little disappointing. There's, I was hoping to see X, Y, and Z company here and they're not here. And I was hoping to see some new stuff. Right. And people, so real quick though, before we get off Todd's comment there, cause I think it's a good one, Todd, and I appreciate you sharing that. To play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Right. And not personal against Todd. Todd knows this. When you think about this, though, you think about, you know, you look at Long Beach, it was kind of back. You look at some of the other shows and they've definitely caught up. And so if it's a price thing, I'd be shocked because out of all the shows, if you're a vendor, if you're on this side of the, you know, Terry's side of the aisle, my side of the aisle here, you're a vendor, the most bang for your buck is coming to a DAX show.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just their floor space is cheaper. Everything is cheaper.
Right.
They have hotel rates for you. I don't know any other shows that have room blocks.
Yeah.
Right. They feed you during the day. They feed you lunch.
Yeah. As a vendor. Yeah.
As a vendor, they feed you lunch. So if the excuse is, well, the prices have gone up, I can't afford to go to the shows anymore. Well, then you should be at every one of the DAX shows.
Right.
And again, I know I'm a big DAX fan because I think Scott and
I'm
Margie
leave
are
you to
doing.
talk. I have to get a throat.
All right.
I'm holding back a cough.
All right. All right. So anyhow, just to quickly play devil's advocate on that. All right. Well, let's see what else we've got here. Todd says, I'm pretty sure we signed up for your Tinley Park class. Love it. All right. Edward. Pricing confuses me still. I just made $50 on a product I normally sell for $39 and the customer was thrilled to buy it, but it was a casual friend and I'm not sure if that was my good work or my friend. Well, dollars are still dollars, Edward. So if that person believes it's worth it, then maybe understanding why it's worth it to them. All right. So we can talk about that a little bit more later offline. Andy, here we go. Sorry, getting a little light on the internet here, so I apologize for that. Our problem is being out of the shop for 2 days and go through a lot of beer and rum. But there's that, right? The bar tabs can be part of that. All right. Well, next point that we wanted to talk about here is, so with all of these things we've talked about, what draws your attention, right? What are some things that gets us to go, okay, should I be at that show? What's the value proposition for both sides, right? But if you're an attendee, what's the value proposition for you? And so curious about what you guys have to share on that. But I guess the first question, and while Terry's back with his lozenge, look at him. No problem, man.
Last night, Kim's like, you need to take medicine, go to bed. You're not going to make it through the show.
All right. So we're talking now about drawing attention, right? But I want to go backwards here. So first question, Terry, is do gimmicks work?
Well, and I'm torn on it. I remember at a trade show one time, somebody had a magician walking around in their booth. And I thought, well, how's that selling a product for you? But on the flip side of that, I was talking to somebody about a week ago, and he said, yeah, I was at Printing United looking at this product. And I'm like, oh, did you come by our booth? And he goes, wait, you guys were there? And one of my notes is, there's nothing you can hear worse than being at a show and, oh, I didn't see you. He said, we were there for 3 days and didn't know we were in the booth. We were there. If somebody had bought from us before, he would remember. I'm like, yeah. How did you not go down our aisle?
Yeah.
So sometimes gimmicks, and it's kind of funny because I was talking about this with Dane from Great Dane Graphics downstairs right before I came up. You went to get all the equipment. I was talking to Dane, and we were talking about this concept, and he goes, there was a guy at out in Long Beach or at Printing United doing an entire painting in the booth at the show. It was Dane in the stalls booth, and it was kind of a cool thing, and people stopped. And another example of that is in the Equipment Zone booth, Jay Bassell had a had a graffiti wall set up.
Yeah.
And he was doing, and he had stencils that people could come by and paint. Did it sell any product? I don't know if it did, but a lot of people took pictures. A lot of people did hashtags of that happening. A lot of social media people came by and got their pictures taken doing it. So I think that there was a lot of publicity from it. I don't think that very many people went by that booth and didn't see that happening. Yeah. So I think to a certain extent, doing something unique in your booth, if nothing else, helps people remember, because, and we talk about this, somebody gets home because at Equipment Zone, and I'm not plugging Equipment Zone, but this is my most recent experience, that every shirt that you get in the booth, even if it's you come by with your flash drive and say, hey, can you print this for me? And have everybody print it. We always make sure we drop in an Equipment Zone logo on there, because you get home from that show and you dump all those bags out and you're like, oh, where'd I get this?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it as well.
Yeah. And I think back, right. So as we're talking about this, I'm trying to think back over, I was trying to do math because I wanted to share this with people in my seminar. I think probably, and I'm certainly not 100% on here, but I think probably in my time in the industry, I've probably done 750 trade shows, I'm guessing.
Wow.
And I'm sure you've done way more than that.
Probably more. Yeah. I'm almost afraid to think about it.
Yeah, to do that math. But I'm just trying to think, like, what stands out over the years, right? So I didn't see this, but the story that I heard from Jimmy Lamb is at one point in Long Beach, when he was with Hirsch, they had a lion in the booth.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that either.
And he said that was like tons of like going on about that. Who was the one? Oh, shoot. She was famous back in the day, but then was kind of a B actress, and she was in a booth once out in Long Beach.
And I remember
Jenna,
that as well.
Maybe.
I can't remember who it was.
So there's that. There's been, but one of the things when you think about that, right? That's just a draw to get people into the booth, right?
Yeah. Well, and that isn't going to necessarily sell any product. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But afterwards, it's remembering you.
Yeah.
Because, as much as you want to sell in the booth, a lot of trade shows, a lot of what we want to do in trade shows is remembering you after the show.
Yeah. Yeah. But so there's one side of it, but you take that and you go, okay, do I need to spend money to have some B-list celebrity there, bring a tiger in, whatever? Or are there other things that you could do? Like one of the other things that stands out to me, stretch devices, right? They wanted to talk about how tight their mesh was.
Right.
And so they would put big screens and they would have people standing up on them,
right,
models dancing on them or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Right. And I think that's a perfect combination of drawing attention and look at what our product does.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, the other, I remember the booth that was basically just big foam core white, and like they put pieces of paper taped together on the floor, and it was a bunch of transfers. I think it was like Air Trans or somebody like that. And everybody always remembered them because when they were done, they took the samples off the wall and the rest of it was trash. But it was just, that was kind of their thing. Right. So I guess lesson for people in general across the board, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, what is going to make people remember you past,
right.
And I think now more than ever, that's more important because A, there's more noise. B, when I'm searching online, I'm going to look through that list of names and I'm going to go, okay, yep. Oh yeah. I remember so-and-so. I remember meeting Terry at this show. I remember the white paper on the floor. I remember the person dancing on a frame.
Well, and as a vendor makes that phone call to a customer, I always say we're the booth that. Oh yeah, and so and there's a lot of unique things you can do without spending a lot of money to do it.
Yeah. All right, couple more comments here. Todd says 100% agree with DAX being the best bang for your buck. Don't forget they feed you breakfast and then dinner on Friday night too. Good point. Very good point, Todd. Thank you. I had a nice little breakfast sandwich this morning.
Nice. I'm going to go down and do that tomorrow morning.
Non-salesy education. We've all been to those shows where the education is really sales class. Absolutely. And then I think the nice part about people starting to understand that level of education, that loyalty that you build, is that even in the sales opportunities, there's a lot of education going on still. But yes, there's, if you're not paying for it, you're the product. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be honest. And so if you're not paying for it, you're the product. Therefore, you're being sold something.
Right. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Correct. So. And so you might be getting some good information, but it is certainly slanted towards you buying their product. I mean, that's call it what it is. But
and I've done those seminars where we paid to put on the seminar, but I always made sure that the sales pitch, and this is just me, because I don't try to reel people in.
Yeah.
At the end, I always say, okay, we invited you here. It's a free seminar, so I'm going to give you the 3-minute pitch, and then I'll talk about the products and talk about the prices, and I think people appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I did one of those classes this morning, and I showed up for it, and I was like, nope, I'm going to share what I think is important for people. If they believe that, what I'm sharing is worthwhile, then they'll, hopefully someday become a member. And so, I think there's a little bit more of that happening now, as opposed to, I think early on when people started doing those pay for your own class thing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, okay, I got to somehow get this money back. And so I'm going to spend 90 minutes trying to convince you to buy our product.
Right.
So, all right, Rich, hello. What else we got here, Todd? The Red Stormtrooper with the boombox and gold chain in Long Beach, 2019.
That was awesome.
That was good. Awesome. All right. Well, let's keep moving here, Terry, because we could make it super long, shocking. And we're almost getting long-ish right now.
Yeah.
Where do you want to head here?
Well, another thing that I've been seeing is more partnering with other vendors. And forgive me for giving another Equipment Zone example, but we did a print take station, and Jay Bassell, marketing guy, he had a station at the end of our booth. Sanmar wanted to show all their non-garment items that you could decorate. So Jay was set up. Sanmar brought over backpacks and all kinds of things, and he was there heat pressing DTF transfers onto those products. And I think there's more of that kind of cross breeding of companies that, hey, I can help you, you can help me. Another example is like a coupon. If you buy this piece of equipment, this vendor, and my example is Cotton Heritage. My last Equipment Zone example, because that's the trade show booth I work in, but if you bought an F2100 DTG printer, then you got a coupon from Cotton Heritage where they give you in pricing for 6 months. And then if you qualify, then you get to keep it. But it's a win for Cotton Heritage or any other vendor. And it's a win for Equipment Zone to say, hey, here's something a little extra.
Yeah.
And so I think there are a lot of those kind of opportunities out there. When you go to a trade show booth, whether it's a screen printing booth, it's Rock or it's Workhorse or it's M&R, it's an embroidery booth. A lot of the garments that they're decorating, guess what? They didn't pay for those.
Yeah.
Those vendors that make those products say, hey, would you like to have, 500 shirts in your booth that you're decorating? Why is that? Because you're going to get home with that M&R printed shirt, and guess what? The label for that manufacturer, Sanmar or Gildan or Cotton Heritage or whoever, is going to be on that shirt. And I really like this shirt. Yep. Again, that's a partnership type of thing. I mean, that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people realize that free shirt you got from that equipment manufacturer paid for the ink. They didn't pay for that shirt.
Yeah. Maybe didn't even pay for the ink, to be honest with you.
That could be as well. Because the manufacturer probably provided some amount of money for that booth space to help help you to be there exhibiting.
Yeah. In fact, like I said, that's been going on for a bit, but I think you're seeing people trying to get more creative with that nowadays in a lot of ways. But I remember one of my first responsibilities when I went to work at US Screen before you were there was we would go around to the equipment manufacturers and say, hey, can we separate some art for you that you can print?
Yes.
And it'll say this on it, right? And then from there it was like, yep, then the t-shirt people, then the ink people.
And there's a little tag on there that said US Screen Fast Films.
Yep, exactly. And then, but then they would, want us to add into the art that, shirts by Haynes or whoever it was, ink from Union, that kind of thing. And, but then we wanted to make sure that we were front and center. So we would make a little sign and, hey, can you put this on the, it says Seps by Fast Films, come to booth such and such to talk about it. Right.
And people would find their way over there and hand you and me credit cards.
Yeah. Pretty fun. Good old days. All right. What else we got here that you want to cover before we close up?
Let's talk about what attendees would like to see at a show. And if anybody has any comments about that. And I had a couple of points that I added for myself, but first off, if you're a vendor in a booth and you're selling something that does something, I don't care if it's it's a shirt folder, or it's an embroidery machine, or it's a screen press, or it's a DTG machine. If you have it in your booth and it does something, have it do something in the booth. If you walk around trade shows, there's so many booths where they have a piece of equipment with a printed shirt on it or whatever, but it's not actually running. And when I was first in the industry, I was enamored of watching the prints happening, and I wanted to know how they did this and did that.
Yeah.
If that machine's just sitting there, you wasted a lot of money to be there. And can I give you one more?
Can we talk about that just a little bit more first, or you want to go to the next one?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Because I think that point's really important too, because I think what sometimes the vendors go is, oh man, I'm just wasting all this material, whatever. Because honestly, you look at some of the things here at DAX here today. I've seen a couple of sublimation printers that are just sitting there with a sign on them.
Yeah.
Nobody's pressing anything. It's like, the sublimation printer, cool. That full color image that comes off this heat press after you open the door, that's what's going to sell stuff for you. But think about this for you guys as decorators, right? When you go out to an event, are you just standing there with the shirt, or are you, giving them the aha moment? You're giving them that selling the sizzle, right? So anyhow, I just wanted to share that. So what else you got for us here?
Excuse me. Well, what I don't want to see in a trade show booth, and this seems like it makes perfect sense until you walk around in a trade show. So if you're working at a trade show booth, do two things: put down your phone and get out of your chair. Nothing drives me crazier, because you can watch people. And I was at a recent trade show across the aisle from us. There's a company, and everybody in the booth was sitting in a chair like this. Guess what? Nobody wants to come up and interrupt your conversation on your phone. And what are they going to do? They're going to walk on by.
Yeah.
So I'm a proponent of having no chairs in the booth. I get ridiculed for that, because I'm this guy. When you set up the booth, if I see chairs right before we send them back, with with storage, I'll take the chairs and throw them back in the crate. And then people will be like, "Hey, where are the chairs?" I don't know. I think they got put in the crate. I guess we'll have to stand in the booth.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's definitely a hard one, because and being here on my own, right? There's things that are going on that I need to do on my phone, but I make it a point to walk outside of my booth and then be on my phone.
Yes.
Because when I'm standing in my booth, I want to be attentive and available, right? And so it is a hard thing.
And by the way, take that sandwich and walk out of the booth too.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to come up and talk to you if you have a sandwich in your hand.
Yeah. And I get it. Sometimes you got to just shove food in your face really quick, but take a bite, see if there's anybody around, put it down. Right. Yeah.
Our buddy Jeff Morgenthaler, he was notorious for this. Yeah, I didn't have time to eat. Oh, do you want me to get you something? Well, a chili dog would be nice. And he had customers bringing him chili dogs to the booth. Where'd you get food? They brought it to me.
All right. All right. So what do you guys want to see at shows? And we're just talking about kind of in general, but yeah, throw some stuff out there. Get crazy. We're cool with whatever you guys think, right?
What attracts you to a trade show booth or sends you away from a trade show
or
booth?
would make you say, hey, I want to go to that show, right? Because I think that's the other thing that we're going to start seeing more is the shows are going to have to evolve a little bit more too.
Yeah.
I think we do need to see more kind of educational, more panel discussions, more, right? Like making it, I think for so long there's the show floor for selling, there's the classrooms for educating.
Right.
I think Printing United tried to go all the way the other way where they got rid of the classrooms for educating this year. And I think there was some downside to that. People didn't go because they were, but at the same time, they had some incredible stuff happening out on the show floor. Some of those classes that they had over there in their theater were incredible. They had you could see everything happening in that activation zone. Obviously, we thought the podcast thing was pretty darn cool.
The glass booth for podcast was pretty awesome.
Do not feed the animals. That was fun. So what do you guys want to see? I see Jerry's got one. I want to hit a couple of Todd's earlier ones when we were talking about how he found All Made, right? Just like that, right? That's how I found All Made. A vendor printed the shirt. I'm seeing more and more companies doing their own after hours get-togethers. I like those, right? Yep.
Right.
Very good.
Well, at US Screen, we had an early group on the internet, but before there were very many groups on the internet, and we at Long Beach, we would always invite people who were on there answering questions, helping out. We'd always have them come there. We'd take everybody out to dinner. We'd have 30 people at dinner, and Scott Fresner would come up to you and I and say, "Hey, listen, make sure that you're the last ones here, and that nobody buys a drink." And
is that why we always close the bars?
That's what he said.
All right, we just were doing as we were told, because he was like, "These guys are gonna close the bar." Yeah, good point. I like that. Let's see here. Todd says, "You know what trade shows really need? More cowbell." Yes, thank you, Todd. Don't make Terry laugh. He's not feeling well. All right. Jerry says the ability to have hands-on experiences with equipment. I like that.
Yes.
And I think that was kind of the idea behind what the apparel zone was at Printing United.
Yeah.
I don't think you got hands-on necessarily, but you got to see, like, they tried to think through the whole, like, let's at the beginning pre-press looking at some, like they had a demonstration of like an e-commerce store that would then feed into the back end of something. And then they went to production, and then they had cut and sew. And so they were trying to give you as much of a taste of how it operated. And then they tried to do it in okay, you guys can come and be in this booth and show off your stuff here, but you're not really supposed to pitch, right? You're
right. Well, I remember at FESPA, and I think it might have been Berlin, Charlie Toblieb was in someone's booth, and forgive me for not remembering whose booth it was, but he was enticing people to come in to print their own shirt, and he would show them how to pull the squeegee and do a multicolor print, and they'd take the shirt over the dryer, and I thought that was very effective because a lot of folks first of all, people love the idea of printing their own t-shirt and love the idea of the concept, and once you get reeled in, it's hard to ever leave. I started out with my degree in journalism and pulled a squeegee a couple of times, and here I am.
Look at that, sitting on a bed in a hotel with some random guy. This is what your life's become, Terry. Good. All right, good stuff. What else we got here, Todd? One more, and then we'll start wrapping this up if I can hit the right button. Less of you only need to sell X amount of X to pay for this equipment. Yeah. I know Todd hates that. And I get it too, because people get this notion that, is it true? Sure, it could be. But is that the formula that's going to work for everybody? It just, it's not realistic.
Everyone's business is different. And so And and we've talked about this before, or I think we both do this. Well, tell me about your business, and let's see if this is a good fit for you. And I've told people in a trade show booth before, I don't think this is right for you. Here's what you really need to do. You really need this equipment, and once you need this, though, hope you come back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, honestly, I gave a seminar today. We were talking about marketing and what the point of the seminar was not, okay, you should go, do X, Y, and Z and run a Facebook ad and make sure that you dance the gritty on TikTok. And it wasn't about that. It was.
Are we ending the show with that, by the way?
Oh, I do owe that. I did promise somebody somewhere. I'm waiting for somebody to call me out on that. Because my son taught me it, and I did it. And then he's like, no, you're not doing it right. I'm like, I don't understand how I'm not doing this right. Anyways. So the point of the seminar, though, was you need to be marketing, selling your business based on what's right for you. So let's understand that first. Let's get real clarity about what that is. And the same thing goes for this. I can go up to that vendor and go, yeah, I could if I sold this many at this price, but maybe that's not my business. Maybe
Right.
I need to sell more at a lower price because that's what my business is all about. Or maybe I need to go after a different thing or look at this a different way. So trying to say, I agree with what Todd's saying here, trying to say, here's the shoebox, fit into the shoebox, and you're going to be successful. Right. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I think we got everything then. Okay. So Terry, what the heck are you doing here in Kansas City, by the way?
Well, I am doing 2 seminars tomorrow. One is everything you ever wanted to know about DTG and DTF printing. Everything. And this one, it's underlined here. And now I'm a little nervous about renaming this seminar. The ultimate seminar for successfully using specialty inks. The ultimate seminar.
Yeah.
You'll never have to go to another seminar on specialty inks. It's the ultimate.
How
about you?
Well, you're going to get everything you ever wanted to know. And then you're going to have the ultimate seminar. So I feel like I need to show up in these seminars and go, everything.
Tell me everything.
Well, but before we get to me, you also have some screen printing classes coming up. Is that correct?
I do. I have Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, March 4th and 5th. Actually, that class is sold out.
Wow.
As usual, the Atlas folks do a great job promoting that class. So the next class at Atlas Screen Supply will be April 22nd, 23rd. Workhorse Products in Phoenix, March 11th and 12th. It's this close to being sold out, but we have a couple of spots left if anybody wants to come to Phoenix. It's warmer than Kansas City if anybody's in Kansas City.
And I'm not going to be biased towards our good friends in Chicago, but if I was trying to choose between the two and they were equal for me, I might go to Phoenix in March. I don't know if there's a better time to be there in Phoenix.
And as much as I ask them to guarantee that there won't be bad weather, they never do.
They can't do it?
No.
Darn those guys. All right. Well, so tomorrow for me, I've got one more class left called Getting Your Life Back. It's all about time management. So we'll see how that goes. See if I can get it done on time. That should be a good gauge of whether I should teach this.
The only seminar that you absolutely have to be done exactly on
time. Yeah. So a little pressure. It's not quite the ultimate seminar, but there's some pressure there. So I've got that coming up tomorrow if you're in the Kansas City area. And then next week I'm heading off to Lafayette, Louisiana. Teaching 5 classes out there on March 4th and 5th.
I hear there's a hurricane party every time it blows in Lafayette. Sorry.
Wow.
That just pops into my head.
He hasn't even really been drinking much of his beer either. It's crazy.
Kim.
Yeah. Look at that guy. So, and then one thing I'd love to share with folks, if you are somebody that has you don't even have to have it. Like if you're just somebody that has a community that you'd like to see lifted up and growing, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is the power of the mastermind. And so I've got a new program. If you go to mosmasterminds.com, you can check that out and we can collaborate together on putting together a mastermind group. Since Todd's here, I'll shout out to Todd. I believe Todd's going to be putting one together for the folks that are part of his world, Tuesdays with Todd, all of the cool stuff that he offers over there, the business success group that he manages on Facebook. So I'm excited to see the groups that come out of that, and to be able to collaborate more with Todd on that, as he's been busily building Fat Dad Wholesale as well. So
I think that he should call it Todd's World. It paints a picture.
Todd's World. Todd's World. I like it. Can we make that official, Todd? So let us know. But anyhow, again, if you're somebody that you feel like you can bring some people and you want to provide a little more value to them, you want to host this mastermind program, I'm going to do all the back end work for you. I'm going to take care of making sure that all you got to do is show up and lead this group, and you guys are going to just blow up. I've been leading mastermind groups with Todd and the folks over there at our success group for just about 2 years now, maybe a little under, maybe a little over. I can't remember exactly. And some of the progress that people have made in that short amount of time, but even shorter, even through the end of last year. Wow. I was just blown away. So I'm like, how can we get this to more people? And this is what we're trying. So I'd love for you to check that out. mosmasterminds.com.
Awesome.
All right. I don't know what Eric's got coming up. He's Rockstar City. So we'll just
I don't know if he's updated. Yeah.
Now next week, I think, so next week, Vin Driscoll, correct, thank you, is going to be joining us back at our regular time, 10 a.m., I believe. And he's the ASI podcast host, The Social Angle. So once again, abundance mindset. We do not shy away from other podcasts. We want to lift them up and promote them. Yep. And he's going to be joining us talking about using social media effectively in the promo industry and beyond. So Vin is a great guy. Eric actually was recently on his podcast with him. So I will be out, and so it will be Eric and Terry, hopefully, if you're around.
Very good.
Okay,
absolutely.
But Eric said he would fill in for me, so I'm looking forward to being a listener next week. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, since we're here in Kansas City, I have to say, how about them Chiefs?
I knew we couldn't get away without that.
All right.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Until next week, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And we are the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.